All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Best Self Blueprint. So, as some of you know, the mission of this podcast is to bring on people who I believe have the knowledge, experience, and insights as to what it takes to truly move the dial towards becoming the best version of yourself. So, this guest is pound for pound one of the most impressive athletes I know. She was born with a hearing impairment that she was told would cause her to struggle with balance and school. However, she ignored these limiting beliefs and now is a dominant OCR athlete, endurance runner, and overall model of health, all while working to serve others as a nurse. Her mission is to show other nurses that it is very possible to work long, stressful hours while staying in good health and good spirits. After multiple OCR podium appearances, completing an ultra marathon, and crushing difficult rock climbing routes, it's safe to say she succeeded in that mission. So, without further ado, it's time for you all to meet her, Kate West. Hey, how you doing?
Oh, thank you, Trevor. That was so nice, and thanks for having me.
You bet. So the most logical place to start is at the beginning. So,
Oh boy.
like, explain the hearing impairment, like what it was, how it affected you. We'll just start there.
Oh, sure. So I was born with a hearing impairment. It was about the first 4 years of my life. I heard what it sounds like when someone talks to you underwater. So really muffled, and I just wasn't quite talking like a normal person. And so everyone just thought maybe, oh, she's a quiet kid. She kind of keeps to herself. And then I went to the doctors, and that's when they found out I had fluid buildup in my ear and couldn't hear. And so I remember doing all kinds of therapies, and I was going to get tubes put down my ears. But then I had a lady pray over me from our church. And regardless of your beliefs or whatever, after she prayed over me, my eardrums ruptured. And I had all the fluid come out of my ears, and I could hear just fine. I actually went to the doctors the next day, and they were like, oh, why are you here? She can hear just fine. Her eardrums look okay. Just has some scar tissue on there. So my eardrums ruptured. I have scar tissue, and I was told, oh, she's really going to struggle with balance because of this. And then also, too, just because I was so delayed in my hearing and my developmental skills, they were like, oh, it's going to be hard for her in school. She's really going to struggle. And so kind of from the beginning, I was told it was going to be hard for me.
Yeah. So talk about like, what did that do to you as a kid hearing you're going to struggle? You are not going to be as good. Like, what does
Oh,
that do to you?
oh my goodness. Well, it was tough. I think it's more important to reword it to be like, yeah, it may be a little harder for you, but you can do it. So I did do speech therapy, and I didn't tell you this beforehand, but I was in Alabama. So when I was younger, I moved every 2 years growing up to new states where I would know no one. So on top of like trying to learn and learn my balance and just process all that, I was moving every 2 years where I knew no one. So I did speech therapy at the University of Alabama and had this thick Southern accent. And yeah, it was hard because I was like, I can't do this because of my ears, and my balance is going to be hard. I used to not be able to actually like walk into places with high ceilings when I was little in like middle school and high school, because I'd be like, my balance is off, my vertigo is acting up. And I used to like kind of pass out actually. So I was always like, I won't be able to do all this cool things or travel because of my ears. But I kind of was like, I got to a point at a young age where I was like, I'm going to do it regardless. I'm going to try to prove everyone wrong. And that's how I got into running too, because it was a good way for me to cope, because it's a sport you can do anywhere. All you need is a good pair of shoes, maybe a good outfit that's dressed appropriately for the weather. And so, yeah, that was a good way for me to kind of cope with everything with moving and being told I couldn't do hard things or things that require balance. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I put a lot of time into researching, is how, like, the impact of limiting beliefs, what that does in terms of not only self-confidence, but habits, mindset in general, all of that. Also, it sounds like your entire childhood was very stressful between the things you were dealing with in your personal life, all the moving, all the adaptation you need to constantly be doing more than,
Exactly.
let's say, the average person. And now you work as a nurse in one of the craziest times to
Oh
work as a
yeah.
nurse. So talk about like just did the stress that you were just used to dealing with help
I
you like in your profession?
It definitely did help. It makes me adaptable. I mean, I am human though. There are times when I'm stubborn and I do doubt myself. But it's really about learning, I think, how to rewire your thinking. Like, yeah, it's hard now, but it's not going to be like this forever. And there's things I can do to make this easier for me and for others. It's just more so, like you said, your mindset and rewiring and flipping things around. It's okay. I've learned to have a moment to be like, hey, this is hard. This really does suck at times, but it's up to me on how I want to kind of interpret it. I can have a moment, but it shouldn't define me. Like, let me
Yeah.
just have a moment, move on.
And I think that's something that not enough people do is allow yourself time. Just if it's 30 seconds or a minute, just give yourself a little time if you're in a stressful situation to stop, recenter, and just gather your thoughts as opposed to just trying to like muscle through and not stop at all.
I agree. And I have this theory. I have a couple of theories in life. Maybe you can agree or disagree with, no problem. Is that despite, our race, our political views, all that, we're all connected because we all struggle somehow. And sometimes it is a big help too to kind of recenter yourself and be like, hey, I'm not the only one who has it hard. There's other people who struggle, and maybe it can sometimes I've learned it benefits me to help others and kind of with their struggles and learn what they're going through, even though we may have totally different views on everything. And I think they always say like humankind be both. And I think that's something as a society we forgot to do.
So is that, first of all, I completely agree in that it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you're doing, who you're with. At some point in everyone's life, they're going to face struggle, pain, suffering, adversity. And so you can understand that regardless of who you are.
Exactly.
And so is that what got you to go into nursing? Was that just drive to help people?
Definitely. And I was kind of a nerd and I like science. Growing up, I always thought dissecting frogs was cool and like doing all that was really cool in school. But also, just I find it heartwarming to inspire people through my story and kind of incorporate into nursing. Like, yeah, I was told it was going to be hard for me. I maybe didn't have as many resources because of moving so much on how to cope with hard times and difficult situations. So I'm very empathetic to other people's hardships, and I can kind of feel what they feel very deeply. Just because as a kid, luckily I have an awesome family that helped me through the hard times. So I never had like childhood best friends or the comfort of knowing this is my normal, because my normal was changing every 2 years and I was moving states. So I'm really empathetic towards other people's pain and difficult situations. And yeah, I just guess that kind of helped me as a nurse. And I like connecting with others too. I mean, you can learn a lot about a person during hard times and good times. So just connecting with people and learning about people on top of being a science nerd was a good combo.
Yeah, and I like that you use the word connect, not just like talk with someone, but connect with someone.
Exactly.
That opens up so many doors. I took a 3-week road trip just out southwest, hit as many different places, environments as I could, and I made it a point to like have an intentional conversation with someone in every one of those stops. And it is amazing the people you meet and their stories. And maybe that's one reason subconsciously why I started this is it's just so incredible to get to truly connect with people. And I think that's something that's missing from everyday life.
It really is. And I think the hard thing with the pandemic and just everything going on with 2020 is that we're kind of all forced to slow down because we always move way too fast. We're all about self promotion, whether it's on social media. But I've kind of learned this year that when you're famous on Instagram, it's kind of like being rich in Monopoly. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's more so how you connect with others. And I think it's very easy to hide behind a screen. And I mean, I use social media because it is a great way to stay connected with everyone that I've interacted with, just with moving and racing. But at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's about reaching out to others and going outside your comfort zone too.
Yeah. There is a lot of different directions I could go with that. But I do want to pivot because I want to start tying all your life aspects together. So let's get
Definitely.
into OCR a little bit. So how did you
Oh,
start in OCR? Like, how did you get introduced?
Oh, sure. So when I was younger, I kind of touched on the fact that I was running a lot. So I started running when I was like 10 as a way to cope with moving. And I did like track meets, started off as a middle distance runner, ran long distance in high school. I was going to run in college, but nursing school is pretty tough. So I was like, I'm a student athlete. I want to focus on my academics. And then I graduated nursing school. And first of all, I was working night shift. And everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't work nights. You're going to be unhealthy. Like everyone gains weight when they work nights. And I did that lovely, sometimes 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to be healthy. So I ate my vegetables, did all that. But then when I started as a nurse, I was like, oh my goodness, you actually have to be strong. You're on your feet all day. You're moving people. You're doing all this. So I taught myself weightlifting, which was kind of scary in the beginning because I'm not quite sure if I did anything right. It actually took me 2 years to do like my first pull up, which, oh my gosh, I was about ready to lose it. But I was like, I'm going to do a pull up. So I think, being a kid and being told I couldn't do it, I was like, watch me prove you wrong. And then getting into OCR, I did my first OCR obstacle course race in 2018 at the Abominable Snow Race. And shout out to my mom who found it. That was the year it was in Lake Geneva. And I was like, I miss my running, but I also like weightlifting. It's been fun. And so then it was just a good way to combine the two worlds. And I had so much fun. It was at the Grand Geneva in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. So it wasn't a bad location either.
Yeah, I have yet to do that race.
Yeah.
I haven't
Are you
convinced
doing
myself.
it?
I am not. No. So I
Oh,
actually had an injury. I take my brace off for the podcast, but I've been wearing a brace for a couple months now. I fractured my metacarpal and strained some ligaments in my thumb. So
oh yeah, don't do
I
it.
am I am out for a little while, but
Okay.
no, I've heard that race is really fun.
It's a lot
Um,
of fun.
Now, so that was your first race.
Yep.
Fast forward now, again, you've had a lot of podium appearances. You do really well
Well,
consistently.
thanks.
When did that switch flip from, hey, this is a fun sport, I enjoy it, to like, I want to compete?
So, like I said, did my first OCR in 2018 at the Abominable Snow Race. And then my second OCR ever was at Toyota Park, which was a Spartan race. And at the end of 2018, I think it was, or maybe 2019, I'm not quite sure, but that was my first Spartan at Toyota Park. And that's when I fell in love. And I kind of saw you guys, Legendary Fitness, in the corner where I was like, oh, look at all that bright green. And then also shout out to Heart Fitness because they found me there too. And I was like, those guys look kind of cool too. And I think that's kind of when I was like, this is a lot of fun. I feel like I'm kind of made to do this just because I do love running and I like to lift weights. It's just a good way to be a good all around athlete. And so, just the OCR community, honestly, in the Midwest has been a huge impact on my OCR career and kind of pushing myself because I'm human. I struggle with doubting myself and being like, there's a couple of times recently where I've been running and I'm like, there's no way I'm going this pace. My watch has to be broken. But then it's kind of like that rewiring your thinking. And so it was kind of nice once people started reaching out to me and encouraging me that I was good and don't be so hard on yourself. You're doing the best you can. And believing in me, that was awesome too. But also it came from rewiring my thinking like, hey, I can do this. I can use my story too to inspire others to try OCR and just overcome obstacles in their life too.
Yeah. First of all, I like what you said. If you want to find out if you have a weakness as an athlete, OCR is the place to do it because you need speed, endurance, balance, agility, strength,
Exactly.
every flexibility,
Yep.
really, and mental toughness, especially if you're doing a longer race or you're in a heat with really fast people. It just puts it all together. Another thing I want to address that you mentioned was that you were just really tough on yourself. One commonality I find in any high performer or high achiever I meet is that they are so hard on themselves. And so
Yeah.
I think it's like this gift and curse combination
It is.
of, because you're hard on yourself, you're going to be pushing yourself harder than most people. But then
Yep.
you also have those demons in the back of your head constantly saying like, well, I could be better. I could do better. I could have
Yeah.
done more of this, less of this.
It's honestly about finding the balance, and I found out dad jokes help with that. Good, solid dad joke.
So explain that. Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, another one of my theories is on top of like the struggle and how we all struggle is that we all appreciate a good cheesy dad joke that's not inappropriate. Like
Okay.
everyone laughs at them. Everyone. And so I actually tell some dad jokes at work. And then my first ultra I ever did last year, I totally did on a whim. I was like, I'm just gonna, see how I'll feel this out. And yeah, I started getting loopy at like mile 20, and I'm like, you want to hear a dad joke? And it makes it a little bit more bearable. So obviously you do want to push yourself and do well and be like one more rep. Like it's definitely that's good to do, but it's also very good to be, excuse my cat, very good to slow down and appreciate how far you've come and encourage others on how far they've come and tell a good dad joke.
I love that. And enjoy the process. Like, I think
Yeah,
that's what kind of gets lost is when people are just constantly like pushing themselves and trying to go harder and faster and get better. I like what you said about like slow down, take a second, appreciate where you're at, but also enjoy what you're doing. Like, find a way to enjoy the process that you're partaking in. So I
exactly.
really like that piece of information.
Thanks.
Now, as I briefly mentioned before, you just seem to have, like, every time I see you, you've got a big old grin on your face. You've got high energy. You're always positive. Now, that I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, is intentional. So, how do you kind of bring the joy into those situations? And what habits do you have throughout the day that allow you to sustain that positivity and that energy?
Oh, sure. Well, coffee helps. I drink a lot of coffee. I like light roast coffee, any kind of light roast. Sometimes I'm feeling wild, I throw in some green tea, but
Okay.
definitely, like I said, it's a mindset too. I mean, I am human. I do struggle some days where I'm like, oh, I had a really long day. Like, this is tough. I'm tired. Like, I didn't sleep well last night. But it's kind of rewiring your thinking, like, hey, this is part of me that I enjoy. I want to celebrate what my body's able to do and what I'm able to do, despite being told from day one, like I couldn't do this. So this is a celebration of what I can do. And it's more so about connecting with others. And it does feel good to work out. I do feel better after I work out. I do eat healthy. I am vegan. I did that last year. And then just washing your hands, we all learned that in 2020, taking care of the basics and again, connecting with others. Like I really think OCR, running, and just the gym is a good way to connect with others too. And so it's just more so we're always remembering the bigger picture and that this is a way to celebrate my body and what it's capable of doing. But I definitely try to drink a lot of water, wash my hands, just kind of do the ABCs and just enjoy the process and not be so hard on myself. I definitely this year helped me kind of slow down again. Like you said, the best athletes are hard on themselves. I've kind of learned how to slow down and how to appreciate the process more.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
all work forced to slow down.
Yeah. So I want to get into just let's put it this way. I'm thinking about all the people who have come to me and ask about whether it's like, how do I keep energy going all day? How do
Yeah.
I commit to working out after I'm tired from work? So, what advice do you have for the people who they've had a long day at work? They just don't feel like going to the gym. They don't feel like doing anything. What tips and tactics do you have for people in that situation?
Definitely stay hydrated. You'd be surprised on how tired you get when you're dehydrated. I've learned I have to drink a lot of water personally just because at work I am like wearing a mask and sometimes different PPE. And then sometimes it helps me too mentally if I like lay out my outfit the night before and just pack a bag, just kind of covering your bases so you can't make excuses. And again, it's your mindset. Just tell yourself this is a celebration of what I can do and what my body can do. And I'm going to feel better by the end of it. And do your warm ups, stretch, foam roll. Basically, just do your ABCs. I mean, it's all about the basics. And again, it's your mindset, just like it's a celebration of what I can do. It doesn't have to be a good day. It's okay if every day is not good, as long as you're out there bettering yourself.
Yes. Okay. So two
They're
things.
straight up dumpster fire, let me tell you, like trash can on fire.
So there are two things I want to really highlight for people with that. The first one is automation. I preach automation like crazy. So the more you're able to automate a process and the less mental effort you have to put into that process, the more likely you are to keep doing it.
Interesting.
So exactly
Yeah.
like that with going to the gym, if your gym membership is 25 minutes out of the way between work and home, it's a lot harder to get yourself to go to the gym than if it's directly on your route. Or
Exactly.
like you said, if you the night before not only like pack up your stuff, but if you're really not wanting to go to the gym, put your stuff in your passenger seat of your car. So
So you
that
can
way when you get out of work, you're looking at it like, oh, I got to do it. And so just those simple steps that you can do to make it easier and keep reminding yourself, I got to do it. I got to do it. But also like be grateful that you can do it. Be grateful that you have the ability to move your body and get a workout in and better yourself.
Yep.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about was, like you said, with like stick to the basics. I think a lot of people take it on as like, let's say either they're overweight or they're just really stressed out and they think of the end goal. So they think of 6-pack abs, no body fat, or they think of like a monk who's like happy, purposeful. Break it down, stick to the basics. What's the next thing you can do? Like just a
Yep.
small chunk of, hey, if I haven't worked out in 3 months plus, let's just go to the gym, walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes
Exactly.
just to start
Little
that
goals.
process.
Yep. Little goals help. Like you don't need, because you'll burn yourself out by having like unrealistic expectations. Like you need to enjoy the process, have goals, the ABCs again, kind of like what you were saying.
Yeah. So another thing that I preach is like coaching and mentorship. So that doesn't
Yeah.
mean like you have to go necessarily hire a coach, but find someone who's good at what you're looking to do and get questions answered from them. So like you said, like if you don't know what like an attainable goal is or like what's actually doable, go ask someone, ask a professional, ask
Yeah.
your friend who's already gone through the process of, hey, this is what I really want to do. This is the time that I want to get it done in. Is this doable? If it
Yep.
is,
That's the
how
connection
so?
aspect again, too. Connecting with others and letting them know what your struggles are and maybe what your strengths are, too. The connection.
Yeah, that's, I think, I didn't even think about that when we were talking about connection, where you have no idea who's actually able to answer questions you haven't even thought to ask.
Exactly. And I am so grateful for everyone who's kind of helped me with OCRs because I mean, I remember getting to the rig and being like, what the heck? Like when I did my first OCR, but then I started working out at Legendary and then at Heart Fitness and Strong as Oak. And they're all like, oh, this is how you do it. This is the J loop, S loop. I'm like, huh, that makes it so much easier than muscling my whole way up. And it was just reaching out to others and having others being kind enough to reach out to me to help me. So I think
Yeah.
that's definitely beneficial too.
When talking about technique and OCR, I think that also is a good example of tying into like automation and prep work. So if someone who's never climbed a rope before tries to climb a rope at a race,
Oh, it was awful.
they're likely just going to try to muscle their way up it.
That's what I did.
Now, for people who don't know, a J hook, S hook, which she was talking about, it's techniques where you trap the rope in your feet and lock it in place so you can essentially just stand there. And you're not expending too much effort with your hands while you do that. You can shake out if you need to.
Yep.
And so again, if you put the prep work in and you have it automated from practice and putting the reps in, that's just going to make it tenfold easier for you.
Yeah.
And so that's a life lesson, is rope climbing, I guess. Okay, so
and like with obstacles and like, you know, reaching out to others, like, hey, this is how I got through it. Let me help you through it.
Yeah.
It may not work for you, but just again, the connection piece, like what you're saying. I think there's a connection between sports and life, and that's why I like the two so much.
Yeah, there are a lot of, if you open your eyes to it, there are a lot of things you do mundanely throughout the day that, if interpreted in a different way, have really profound lessons. If you just care to look at them from a different angle. OCR is one of them. If you're scrolling through, one thing I talk about is social media. If you go through social media and you're seeing just a lot of people, like you said, people who are self-promoting and they're just putting what I call their representative. So their absolute like best interpretation of what they could be on there.
Exactly.
That can be toxic, but if you use it as a tool and you follow accounts that uplift you, inspire you, educate you, it's using the same thing just at a different angle.
Exactly.
So that got a little off tangent. All right, I'm going to bring it back.
That's okay. Good.
I'm going to bring it back by talking about, I absolutely love your mission of showing the people that work as nurses that despite, yes, it is a tough job. It is long, stressful hours, but showing them that you can do that, you can still fulfill that purpose of serving others in need and take care of yourself, be fit, be healthy, be happy. So first of all, like, what got you on track of like, that's my mission? And then also, like, let's say every nurse in the world is listening to you. Like, what would you say to them about like tips and tricks to make sure that you're staying healthy, to make sure that you're getting what your body, your mind, your spirit need?
Well, I definitely think with nursing and just life in general, you cannot pour from an empty cup. I know it's so generic and everyone says that, but you really need to take care of yourself so you can take care of others, whether it's at your job or in your personal life. And I believe it's good. Self-care is important regardless of your job and just in general too. I mean, your mental health and your physical health go hand in hand for sure. And I think when you're healthier physically, you feel better mentally, and then you can provide better care to people at work and in your personal life. Gotta love those endorphins.
Yes, you and I explain that very similarly. So you say cup, I say bucket. So when I think of energy, I think everyone's walking around with a metaphorical bucket on their head. So what I think about is, if you're always giving, and you're not filling up your own bucket, you're going to be trying to fill up other people's buckets, but yours is empty, so you can't.
Exactly.
So that's why I am a huge advocate for, like, you have to be selfish at sometimes. Like, you need to take time for yourself. You need to make sure that you're getting the rest you need and getting the exercise you need and the education you need and building the relationships you need, because the more you build that up, the more you're able to fill up other people's buckets or cups.
And that's with like athletics too. Like, you need to take care of yourself mentally because you're going to burn yourself out physically. And if you're not in the right headspace, that can definitely have a big effect. I mean, that's probably my biggest downfall with like running and all that, is that I doubt myself, and that it's more so like, hey, I can do this. Let's just get it done. I can celebrate my body and what it can do.
Yeah. And I think when it comes down to actually race day, a lot of those thoughts when you're at the start line go through your head of like, okay, did I do everything I could? Did I eat as well as I could? Did I set myself up for success? But to me, the only thing, I don't care. Obviously, I care. I care more than my time, more than my place, more than any of that. All I care about more than any of that is when I cross the finish line, I want to be burnt. Like, I want to know that I gave everything I could give in that race or in that event. If I did that, then I have no reason to say, oh, I could have gone faster. Oh, I could have done that better. I'm toast. I'm burnt. I did everything I could do. And so I think if you approach it that way and you just give it as much effort as you can, then you'll be fulfilled.
I agree. And run your race. Don't compare your process to someone else's, but encourage others in their process as well.
Yeah. And tying back to it, if you are upset about your time or your place among other people, then just go back to the drawing board. It's tough to actually do, but I'll still say it. Don't waste time being down on yourself or disappointed or frustrated. Just simply analyze it. Okay, great. If I didn't do as well as I wanted to, why? Was my training not as good as it could have been? Was my diet not as good as it could have been? Was my recovery not optimal? Did I not sleep enough? There's all those pieces, and it's simply do your best, train, get ready, perform, analyze the performance, start training for the next one.
Exactly. I agree.
I think that's also true in life, where any goal you have in any area of your life, do everything you can, prep, train, set yourself up for success, go after the goal. If you don't get it, great. Why not? Go back to the drawing board.
Exactly. And enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. It's okay if you don't meet your goals every once in a while, just enjoy it.
Yeah. You're never going to hit every single one of your goals unless you're setting goals that are way below where you could be setting them.
Exactly.
In which case, raise your standard, get bigger goals.
I agree.
Okay. So at the end of every podcast, I ask everyone the same two questions. So just so you know, but before that, where can people connect with you? Let's say someone who's interested in obstacle course racing, maybe a nurse wants to reach out who just isn't necessarily feeling good about their health, their fitness, or someone just is down on their daily energy. Where can people connect with you if they have questions about that stuff, or if they just want to keep up with your journey?
Oh, I mean, there's obviously Instagram, and I'm usually running around town. So if you see me running, say hey. Sorry if I look ugly, because you shouldn't look good when you're running. But I mean, like you said, social media, even though it can be self-promoting, I think it's a good way to connect with others and learn from one another, for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, and self-promotion, we've kind of degraded it. It's not bad. Like, putting yourself out there and promoting yourself is not a bad thing, as long as you're staying true to that promotion. If you're that person that you're promoting behind the picture or video, as long as that's you off camera or off screen, by all means promote it. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
All right, so getting into it. This is my favorite part.
Oh boy.
Question 1. What right now is the biggest obstacle between you and your best self?
Biggest obstacle, honestly, it's mindset. Like, I think it's just part of being human, is that we do tend to be hard on ourselves, but I am thankful for this year to kind of slow down and appreciate how far I've come. Again, it's the mindset. I do, like you said, when you're high performing, you do tend to be hard on yourself, but just kind of rewiring my thinking and being like, hey, this is how far I've come just this year alone, or just before I can even do a pull-up, and here I am doing a pull-up workout. Like, it's just not being so hard on myself, because I do know I could sit there and analyze and be hard on myself. And at the end of the day, it's more so this is a celebration of what my body can do. So it's more so the mental aspect of everything, I think, for me. And it's still an art I'm learning. I think that we're all learning too, especially this year.
I completely agree. And I think that is a really good next step.
Yep.
All right. The final question. So The reason I put this question in here is because in every podcast you and I are talking, I think there's a lot of good pieces people can extract and implement, but now you get to directly challenge the audience. So here we go.
Challenge audience, okay.
Oh, yes. What is one challenge you want to give the people who listen to this that if and when they do it, it'll better themselves?
I honestly think, well, this is kind of fun. This is what I did this year as a New Year's resolution. So maybe I can tell you guys to do next year for a resolution. A lot of times with resolutions, I feel like people always want to change something about them versus connecting or growing as a person. And so what my New Year's resolution this year was to do one new thing a month. So I think that's a good thing to maybe challenge the listeners. Or another one, it can be something simple like send one person a card once a month. So that way you can say, hey, I tried 12 new things this year. Or, hey, I reached out to 12 different people this year through sending a card, because no one sends cards anymore. It's all online. So, yeah, just kind of doing one new thing a month, reaching out to one person a month, just kind of getting creative with it. So maybe that's not the right answer, but I think it's a fun challenge.
It's a challenge. The gauntlet has been thrown down.
Yeah.
So I always give people my word. When you challenge the audience, when you're saying that, I think of myself as part of the audience. I will do that. I'm going to up the ante. I'm going to do one new thing and reach out to one person every day for the next week.
Wow, I like it. Very nice,
so
Trevor.
I will do that, and I'll report back and let you know how it goes.
Oh, good.
And I think that's a really exciting one for people, because it gets you out of your comfort zone, but you get to choose something you enjoy that gets you out of your comfort zone.
And that way, it's, if you do have a busy schedule, I mean, once a month isn't too bad, but
no, you can find 2-3 hours per month to go do something for yourself.
Yeah, like it can be something little, like what did I do? I mean, I ran the whole Lake Geneva for one thing. Just trying new things, like new foods. I got fake eyelashes before. I mean, just little things, you know.
I will say nothing against them. I probably won't put fake eyelashes on my new things list for the week. But yeah, I like that challenge.
Yeah.
All right, people.
Like food. Yeah.
The gauntlet has been thrown down. So
good luck.
You can take the monthly challenge, or if you really want to up the stakes like I do, every day for the next week, and still once a month. We'll just combine them.
You got it, Trevor.
All right. So that is it for the information part of the podcast. Kate, at the end of these, I just take a second to acknowledge people who come on for, first of all, taking the time. I appreciate you sitting down, having this conversation, sharing your story, your insights, but also just what you're doing to set an example for nurses, for your friends and family, for people who just briefly come in contact with you. You have a very passion and purpose-filled career. Outside of your career, you're setting a great example of how to live a fit, healthy life. You do an amazing job of connecting with people, bringing good energy, high energy. And I just think that's something people need to see. And you set a great example. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, well, thanks for having me, and thank you for the kind words, and thanks for all your help too. And just, it's been fun. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. There was a lot on here. So
sorry.
I will put, that's awesome. That's what people listen to this for. So if this is something that you think directly applies to you, by all means, comment, ask questions, reach out to Kate, reach out to myself. Hopefully we'll have an answer for you. Yeah. But also, if you think the information here could benefit somebody else, if you know a nurse, if you know somebody who's looking to try something new for fitness, or if you just think one of the lessons that we had in here was impactful, share this with those people. That's what this is all about, is getting the tools in people's pockets to help them better their mindset, better their health, and better their life. So, Kate, thank you again. And to everybody listening, we will see you next time.